Hey everybody, welcome to the Tabletop Spotlight. I'm Adam.
And I'm Matt.
We're from Bowls, and we're here to talk to you today about some cool stuff happening in the tabletop space.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, how's it going, dude?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Been busy. It's been a busy week for both of us, I
Yeah,
think.
you know, I lied. I'm not doing okay. I have something in my eye.
That's
but
terrible.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna power through it.
Matt and I both have been working on some 40K, some Warhammer projects that you'll probably find out about on Saturday.
Yes.
And it should be very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But we were talking about it earlier, and we were kind of talking about like how we kind of got started. We talked about last week kind of how we got into gaming, like tabletop gaming in general.
Right.
But I wanted to ask today, Matt, what was your first Warhammer army? Like, how did you get into Warhammer?
So I started playing. Actually, one of the is a side story to the story. One of the first articles I ever wrote for Bowls was about me getting back into playing Warhammer after the 15 years or however long it had been.
Yeah.
I started playing when I was maybe 3rd, 4th grade, something like that. And it was my friend Rich, and I actually don't know how he acquired this, but it must
hopefully
have,
legally.
Right. No, I just mean in terms of like if there was like a box set or something, because he invited me over. He was like, "Hey, I learned about this new game. I want to try it," and he had some amount of Space Marines and then some amount of Orcs. So I don't know if it was like
Sounds like the
Armageddon or
box set or something. Yeah.
Black Reach. What's the
if
something
Black Reach,
like that?
and then the Battle for Mercrag. So it made it. Did it? Do you remember it had?
No.
Don't remember. Okay.
I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Well, so I remember at least because I still have them. Like it was just the boys were like the Orc boys just had like the helmets and then like the bolter and then the axe, and they were just like sort of stuck in this position.
Dude, that's the 2nd edition box.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So like I don't know if it was like a getting started box or like if he got them from his dad, maybe. Like I don't know, because he doesn't have any siblings, I think. Anyway, not important. But and I vaguely recall, and maybe this is a fabricated memory, but I vaguely recall him like sort of putting them both out, and like we both were like, I don't know, who are these guys and who are those guys, or maybe he was just like, I want these, you take those. I genuinely don't remember, but I do recall playing the first game on his bedroom floor. It was carpeted and not very conducive to playing on Warhammer game, and I did not know the rules at all. I would roll, and then I would be like, hey, does this hit? And he would say yes or no. But we were, 9? Somewhere around, like, 3rd grade is, like, 9-ish, right?
I don't
I
know.
I genuinely don't know. However old we were.
Sure.
I suspect he cheated a lot. Because that's what you do when you're, a 9-year-old
No,
kid.
the 6 does not destroy my Space Marine.
Because I do specifically remember having one, and this might have just been because I didn't understand ballistic skill.
Yeah.
But I do remember having the memory of like, but you rolled a 5 and it worked for you. Why doesn't it work for me? Yeah. So like, who knows? Because I mean, also Orcs shooting has never been great. Sure. But at some point, like I clearly enjoyed it well enough to start, because I bought a bunch of packs on my own, and I have the Codex, which I think I still... No, I don't have my original. I have my 3rd edition Codex at home, but I don't have the original one that had the like alphabet and some of the glyphs in the back.
Yeah.
But I still have a lot of my original boys, and the... Like when Orcs had like really weird weaponry, like the squig catapult and the slugga cannon or whatever it was. There was like one that would like fire a shell that would bounce around. Yeah. There's the Tracta cannon. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, I'm digging through my memory now because it's been a while since.
Yeah. So Orcs were your first army.
Yeah, my first and only. I've never played another army. I never really had any interest. As soon as I learned
like Orcs,
the lore and culture and theming and humor of the orcs. It was all very much up my, because I've always been a very cartoonish person, so they just really appealed to me more than like the gritty, grim, dark. Like that's never been my kind of vibe. But sort of speaking of grim, dark, gritty, one of the things going on right now is Slaves of Darkness, which I think was your first army.
So Slaves of Darkness. I started that army. I don't know if it was my first Warhammer army. I think my first fantasy Warhammer army was actually Wood Elves.
Oh, okay.
But then I think around 4th or 5th or 6th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, I started playing. I think that was around the time of like, maybe there was a Total War game or something. I don't remember. No, it wasn't Total War. It was. It was some. Was it like Horned Rat or something? One of the old PlayStation games. I don't know. I don't remember what inspired me to do this. But I had this vision in my head of Chaos Warriors. Right? Okay. And I wanted to start a at the time it was just Chaos, right? Chaos Mortals. I wanted to start a Chaos army that was entirely like this wall of metal of mortals marching in armor in metal. Sure. Just like this black wall of armor marching towards
like a very phalanx kind
of. Yeah, but phalanx, but also like I just imagine I remember there was a cinematic of like these Chaos Warriors walking through the woods, not really yelling or saying anything, but just like slaughtering everybody in front of, like just quietly, like they were quiet, but the other guys were screaming, "Oh God, send more help!" You know, just like just cutting them down and everything like that. But I had this image in my head of like a Chaos army painted mostly black, with this heavy armor marching forward indiscriminately, like this tide of death that you can't stop, right? Sure. And so I started that army, and it wasn't my first Warhammer army, well 40k obviously, but it wasn't my first fantasy army, but it was the one that I've stuck with the longest. Okay. And I'm super excited about Slaves of Darkness now, because we're getting a new book very, very soon.
Yeah, we've seen a couple spoilers. And
it's been announced. Like it's been announced for a while. We know that they're coming this weekend for pre-order. The army box is going to be our first crack at actually getting our hands on the book and the new models. And Games Workshop's already given us some spoilers on the Warhammer community site. I've written up most of those, I think, at this point. I'm very excited about that army.
Sure. Like what? As someone who doesn't really know, other than, because I don't know Sigmar all that well, like what's their vibe, what's their shtick, what's their
so like it's interesting because the current version of the book you can still play in kind of different ways. Obviously, if you want to go like Archeon, and you've seen my Chaos army, I think, where I have like an Archeon.
I must have at some point.
Yeah, I've got Archeon on
back
a big old
Twitch
steed.
Days,
I've got Varangard, so like I still carry that heavy armor mentality of like I want just like overwhelming, crushing force coming at you on horseback and marching for you, an unstoppable tide of iron and death. So like that's more like the Chaos Warriors, Chaos Knights, Varangard, Chosen, Archeon kind of an
not
army.
Like knight, but like
no right knight on a horseback, right? And then there's also like the crazy Chaos Mortal like berserker builds where you're like, not berserkers, cultist builds where like bunch of desperate dudes running around, no t-shirts, like barbarian, crazy. Then you've got like, now you've also got the Be'lakor army of the First Prince, demons, right? Where he's undivided demons and he can pull from all that. And those are all like the current stuff, right? I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the new book, because they're introducing the new Ogroid unit, which is like Minotaurs but better, in my opinion. Like they look better.
So not ogres.
Not ogres.
Okay. And
not Minotaurs. They're like Ogroids, which is like ogres on steroids.
Sure.
But they look very much like I don't know if you remember the old Beast of Chaos Minotaurs when those came out, but they were not. They looked like really not great bodybuilders. It wasn't.
I must have at some point.
Yeah, anatomically they looked really weird. Their legs had like extra muscles on them. It didn't translate well from the design pages to the model, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
I feel like these Ogroids are what they want it to be, and they look way cooler. And they apparently are very, very big, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
The other stuff that we've seen previews of, it looks like the Chaos Warriors and Chaos Knights and the stuff that I want to play are going to be better, which I'm very excited about.
Cool.
So they added some like armor save across the board to some stuff, and added some rend, which is great combo for me. Like
Sure.
That's what I want to play with. So I was like, I can't wait to get that
Just
army
sort
on
of
the
a
table.
general buff across the board.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha.
There's obviously going to be like the new stuff too for AOS 3.0. So all your Path to Glory stuff that's going to be in there. I'm pretty sure they're going to have like new battalion stuff that's part of the new style of books that they're going to do.
Right.
I am curious to see how they're going to fold in kind of the Archeon build with the mortals and armor. The crazy cultists with no shirts builds, like those, because they have a bunch of those cultists from like Warcry too, and then how they're gonna fold in like the new Bellicor stuff, and honestly too, I'm kind of curious about the lore that they're gonna have in the book now too, because I know folks when AOS first came out, they were kind of like, aha, lore, whatever. It's like there's no lore. There's a lot of lore now in AOS, and I'm very, very curious to see.
Good.
Where the story is going with what's been happening.
Yeah, I don't know if I really ever... Because I know, like, the 40k story has kind of stagnated for a while at this point, other than, like, the
Great Rift happened. So it was... The 40k story is interesting, right? Because it was for a very, very long time, it was always the 11th hour to, like, you know, to the end, right? It was always, like, right on the cusp of something happening, and then they'd reset. And then they'd play back at that point, and then they'd reset. Well, they finally pushed to the Great Rift, and they have gone beyond that now. So the story's kind of moving forward in 40k finally.
I'm trying to remember the name of those books that they keep putting out that I'm just blanking on. The little army storybook things, like Vigilus.
Oh, yeah, the War Zones.
Wars, yeah.
Yeah, the Warzone books are actually advancing the story in really interesting ways. Like they're creating conflicts now, and they're pushing stuff forward. So yeah, similar things happening in AOS where each of the codexes, each battle tome is kind of redoing some of the old lore, or like taking some of the old lore, bringing it forward, and then also adding on to it and changing stuff and adding to what's been going on in the general story. And there's also the seasonal storyline that Games Workshop's been doing now. Right now, the Realm of Gur is the focus, and
yes.
Before that, it was like all about like the Necroquake and the ramifications of that, which from Nagash, which is another army that I played.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then now it's all about like what's happening in Gur, and like, you know, Kragnos woke up, and there's this crazy Seraphon ship that crashed, and all these war bands are fighting over it. That's like the Warcry thing. And then also with Underworlds is moving into that direction too, with like the jungles coming alive. I don't know. There's a lot of really fun stuff going on.
Yeah, apparently that's cool. I had no idea.
I should write up a quick like, hey, just a quick heads up. Here's what's going on.
I mean, I'd read it.
Yeah,
because I genuinely had no idea any of this was going on.
Yeah, it's a lot more than like Stormcast Eternals arrived and punched Chaos in the face. Go.
that's what I thought it was.
Right. No, there's a lot more stuff going on. There's a lot of politics involved too, with like the different factions.
Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, you know, just as a fan of the game. So aside from getting new models and stuff, I want to read the lore. So,
all right. Well, cool. That was a really good summary of everything that's going on. Because
basically, I'm excited about Slaves of Darkness.
Right. So, yeah. In summation, Slaves of Darkness, very exciting.
Not my first army, but I'm very excited about them. Matt was an orc player through and through.
Yeah, start to finish. I have not ventured from the Green Tide.
Fair enough. Well, I think we've rambled on long enough. Let's check out some of the new releases coming to a tabletop near you. All right, we are back with some really cool new products coming out this weekend, available for purchase. Big shout out to our friends at Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy. They are the ones that have provided us with these products to show off. And they are the ones that actually backed some of the products we're showing off through Kickstarter. So we have a couple of cool Kickstarter releases here. So
cool.
Starting off, we have the new Call to Adventure Epic Origins box.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of a follow-up to the Call to Adventure card game, if you're familiar with that one at all. It's kind of like it's a 1 to 4 player game where you're playing as a hero and you have to defeat the adversary, and instead of using dice, you have your stats based on your cards that you have, and then you also roll or cast runes, which are these tiles with, some of them are double-sided, some of them are single-sided, and they literally have like carvings on them. And you pull them out of the bag and throw them down, and based on what your character has, depends on which runes you get to cast, and what you roll determines the effects and stuff. It's a kind of a storytelling game.
The one thing that, so I frankly don't know anything about the Call to Adventure series. I know there's at least the one, like you had mentioned, there's at least the one other. Mm-hmm. But in my quick research of this, it seemed like this is very much leaning into being a solo kind of experience. Like a lot of the things I was reading was like, like you can play with 1 to 4, but like this is a little bit designed to be a solo game. Yeah,
that's because this is the Epic Origins kind of expansion or standalone. It's a standalone thing, but it is also 100% compatible with the other Call to Adventure game. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's you can play it solo. It's kind of works better as a solo thing because you're doing your origin story. Mm. So you start off, you pick your race, you pick your class, and then you kind of try to defeat your adversary. And you generate destiny points and all this other stuff. And you kind of, at the end of the game, you get a score based on how well you did. And what's also neat is when you finish the game, you can take your cards and your sheets and your powers, and it actually translates over to a 5th edition character sheet.
Wow, that is cool.
They have a little thing that you can follow to like transcribe it over, and you'll have a brand new character with now a backstory.
That's real. I like that a lot. That's really cool.
I think it's really cool. It's a great way to create your character backstory for the next RPG you're playing if it's 5th edition compatible.
Really? It's also unrelated, but the box is also just really cool while I fiddle with it and try to find more information, but it's mostly blank.
It is mostly blank on the back, It's $39.99 for this box. I think it's a cool way to generate a character for an RPG that you want to play, and again, because it's got instructions in there how to translate from the game to 5th edition, you can very easily make your new D&D character off of this. So I think that's a really cool bonus.
I am very intrigued. That is a really cool idea.
I think it's a cool storytelling device as is, but I think the added benefit is, again, a really nice bonus. So that one's out now. This was a Kickstarter. It's now in retail stores, so go check this one out.
Speaking of Fantasy Realms, let's take a look at Clax, a Discworld board game.
Yeah.
So Discworld is a series of, how many books are there?
Bajillion.
There's a lot of Discworld books. It's like a...
By Sir Terry Pratchett.
It's a very, like... They're not comedy, but there's, like, humor elements. They're a little weird, a little wacky.
That's a little weird, little wacky.
Yeah, but the premise of this game is you are a semaphore translator, I guess is the right word for it, which is like, so semaphore for us is like those flags, right? I think that's what semaphore is. Yeah. But so in this case, it's a series of lanterns in a pattern, kind of like Braille, but the concept is that in Clax, you can play it either competitively or cooperatively, and the core gameplay remains the same, just whether or not you're playing against each other or a timer in the form of the Postal Service, which is competing to see who can get the message across the unnamed continent as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because this is set in Discworld.
Right.
And if I recall, the Clax operators, this new semaphore company, this is how they communicate and send messages very rapidly.
Right.
And so the postmaster is like, no, we're the fastest.
Right. It's like...
And that's where the whole...
The competitive aspect is literally a race to see who can get this message across, because the semaphore system is, as fast as light travels, but it's a little clunky because you have to spell out each letter, which is represented in game by this sort of pattern recognition thing of Do you remember the game? I always called it Lights Out, where you had the grid of lights and like you have to like flip them on and off to try to get the certain patterns.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
sort
know
of
if
like
Lights Out,
that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. So each letter has a certain pattern associated with it. So then your little meeple has to go around and like flip these switches based on these tiles you get.
Okay.
And each, and then based on the tiles you get to flip certain switches on and off. And if you are able to set your certain letter, then you get to mark that on your card because each player has a five-letter word that they have to spell.
Okay.
And then whoever spells their word first wins. Or if you're playing cooperatively, your team has to spell 2 words before the postal service, gets to the. So it's like a pattern recognition kind of game of having to flip these switches and try to find the right, because you can't just flip any switch you want. It's based off these tiles, so it's that sort of process.
That sounds interesting. And again, it's set in Discworld, so if you like those books, this is a neat little thing. I think this is also based off of one of the books. And I don't know. Going Postal? Yeah.
Going Postal. Yes. Yeah. But it's mechanically, it's not a system, like, it's not a mechanic that you really see anywhere else that I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. But it's really cool. I like the idea.
I'm just picturing like Lord of the Rings where they light the fires and the lanterns.
Yeah, basically. Just imagine there's a huge grid of them.
Yeah, but instead of like a bonfire, it's just like light switches that you have to turn on and off.
Yeah, basically.
To communicate. It's very cool.
So there you go. That is Clax, a Discworld board game.
This one's a super short one, little box here, Splendor Duel.
Yeah.
So
I love Splendor.
I'm familiar with Splendor. Everybody knows Splendor. It's a really fun game. You're kind of engine building in Splendor to generate gem pools to then buy favor / visits from nobles to score points. Is what the that's the short version.
Yeah.
Splendor Duel takes that, distills it down a little bit, adds some mechanics to it, and it makes it 1 to 2 players. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to play.
Well, not 1 to 2.
Not just 2. Just 2 players.
Right,
Sorry,
just
you're right.
Players.
There's not a solo mode. This is just a heads-up game.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just 2 players.
Yeah, just 2 players. Okay.
Yeah. Games take about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a distilled down experience of Splendor with the added mechanic. And I was trying to explain this one. How did you put it? It was a prestige.
There's
that you can...
not prestige. There's these little scroll tokens that you get that are like an additional resource that you can use to just sort of help balance the fact that it's just the 2-player thing, and you can use the scrolls to reset the pool, because there's like a grid of tokens that you have to pull from, and it's just. The core gameplay is very much the same of like getting these gems, and then you buy the treasure cards that the treasure cards have crowns on them, and then the crowns are another way to win. It's just they take the core foundation, then just add a couple layers to make it a little more viable with just the 2 players. Yeah,
so it's still the same cool engine builder, just designed for 2 players. So it's Splendor Duel. If you're a fan of Splendor, check this one out too. If it's a 2-player game. So, fun stuff.
Can always do with more Splendor.
Yeah.
Speaking of colored things,
good segue.
This is Monolith.
Yeah.
A 3D kind of pattern building Tetris game. Mm-hmm. So the premise of Monolith is that every player has a 4x4 board. But you are collecting these 3-dimensional blocks that you have to build up, and very briefly, because there's a lot of different ways to score. Kind of actually like Splendor in a way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to score points based on getting certain colors of blocks on the correct side of your player board, or there's a separate tile, and if you match that tile pattern on your board, you get points, and
there's lots of ways to score.
Right, it's that sort of game. But the fact that you are, and if you fill out a full layer, you get your score points that way.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of game, but it's 3-dimensional with the polyominoes is the word they use, which might be a real word, or maybe they made it up. I don't know. I don't think
multi-sided dominoes, polyomino.
Right? Yeah, it's like 3D Tetris pieces, and they all have to sort of fit together. But it's the pattern recognition and building, but then also color matching and getting to sort of build.
There's symbols too. I think.
It's just like it's all sort of that combined and trying to make sure that you plan ahead and picking the correct blocks at the right time and trying to make sure that you're getting the block that you want without your opponent getting it first. There's a drafting mechanic, that sort of.
It's 3D Tetris, but with a little bit more.
with just a lot of minute ways to score points over the course of the game.
It's from Simon. It looks really cool too. I think Simon I know it's distributed by Simon.
Oh, I don't know.
1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up. Again, super kid friendly.
Yeah.
There's no. It's just.
You're right, and it's not like a 3D puzzle where you're gonna have to
no
be able to manipulate the shape in your head. Like it's very simple. So if you're a little daunted by it's very easy. It just and plus it looks neat. Like the blocks are just they're engraved.
Very tactile. You want to touch it when you see these blocks
for sure. Yeah. So there you go, Monolith.
Cool. It is that time of year, so get your Advent calendars.
It's a little early.
Yeah, it is. It's not.
I say that as someone whose birthday is often on Thanksgiving.
Oh,
so I'm a little salty, but it's
I think this is. It's just that time of year, man. I saw Christmas decorations up already, and I was like, "We just had Halloween. What are you doing?"
I know. I mean, it is a very big holiday, and it is that kind of.
I think it's just for people who want to get stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
This is an adventure calendar.
I get it.
Adventure awaits. This is the Dragon's Lair. It's funny because we got it from our friends at Dragon's Lair, but it's a literal Dragon's Lair. It's a calendar that kind of folds out here. It's got a big flame thing, fire breath going on. But the way this works is there are 24 themed polyhedral dice.
As you might hear rattling around.
I'm not going to open it up anymore, but you get it. The idea is it's a bunch of dice, and it's a nice little calendar for your RPG gaming aficionados out there. It's kind of neat. I think it's cool. There's a bunch of these different versions of it, but this was just the one that they had on display. So, again, I guess you'd get this really like a month early because you wouldn't be able to. Right. You're not supposed to open this until December.
Or you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean,
after you buy it, it's yours.
The Advent police are not coming to your house, but this is out. So go check this one out. It's kind of fun.
It's also just a really good name.
Yeah,
like Adventure is very clever.
Yeah. Just really quick. There's 24 dice. They are custom dice. It's 3 complete sets, so a total of 21 like RPG sets plus 3 unique dice.
4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20?
I believe so. There might be 2 D6s.
Oh, and the D100.
Oh, yeah. So D100, that's what 7 standard dice. So it's a D4, D6, D8, D10, the percentage die, the D percentage dice, the D12 and D20. So you get 7 sets of dice. And then they have matching colors and all that fun stuff. And there's 3 unique dice, too. So go check it out.
Very neat.
Yeah.
All right. Last for me is Flamecraft, which is a game that has been getting a lot of attention lately.
Yeah.
This is like a resource management game, but one of the resources is dragons.
I think this game actually came out a while ago and sold out, did gangbusters. Everybody was super pumped about it.
Super. I think it's at least from this year.
Was it from I think I can't remember if this was a reprint or not. I know a couple of these were reprints that like Clax I think was one of those reprints.
Right. Clax is originally from like 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
But Flamecraft is
relatively new.
Pretty new, but it like I said, has just been really, sort of
blowing up.
Right, blowing up in terms of popularity. Because it's super cute. It is a game about trying to find. So you're a Flamecraft master and
the Flamekeeper.
Right, Flamekeeper. Yes, thank you. And the objective is that you're working in this town, and there's the towns has all these different shops, and each shop sells certain type of goods and sell certain kind of resources, which you can also collect, but then each shop also has certain kind of dragons that they prefer and do well with, and then there's enchantments that you can get to put on top of those dragons. Like it's that sort of, it's not quite an engine builder because it is much more about like the resource management aspect of it.
Yeah.
There's like 7-ish different resources that you have to sort of all keep track of, and you're not going to be like having all of them at once, but it is the art style is also just super cute, which I really like. There's
the back.
Yeah, if you can tell the cover also just like it has that style, and there's a lot of different kinds of dragons to get, and then you want to try to match the correct dragon to the correct store to gain reputation as becoming the best sort of dragon master keeper, the flame keeper.
Yeah.
Of, having the best reputation of being able to match the correct store to the right dragons. Then also, like I said, there was enchantments they can get by collecting these resources and spending on them, and then every time you do a correct match, you get a bonus ability. There's just a lot of mechanics on top of it, but it is done really smoothly. It's not a super long. 60 minutes is what it says, and I'm willing to bet if you were good, you could even bring it down to like 45 because it is a very smooth flowing game. A friend of mine was telling me about this recently because he picked it up because he loves dragons just as a concept.
Sure.
And he absolutely loves it, on top of the fact that it's about dragons.
Yeah.
So everything I've heard about this game has been A+.
I like that this game, instead of having a traditional like cardboard game board, has a neoprene mat.
And it's like a really big neoprene mat, which is nice.
This is what we have here. You lay it out there, and it's really nice. You get to play with your dragons in the different shops.
The neoprene mat board is something I'm starting to see a lot more often, which I think is a good idea because it's a lot harder to break a neoprene mat.
Yeah, and you can fold them up or roll them up to get them back in the box.
A lot more transportable for sure.
So very cool. That is Flamecraft. $39.99. Go
definitely check it out.
I'll be right back. There's actually a few things over here.
Oh,
this is kind of the last thing we're going to talk about.
Oh, look at that huge stack.
Okay. I think we have 6 games here. I'm not going to go over all these, but these are all from...
Oh, Honorim. I like that one. That one's a fun gun.
Impatience. They are distributed by Asmodee.
Mm-hmm.
And so Asmodee has dropped all of these games out. These are reprints for the various games that we're showing off here. And I'm going to try to stack them all cool like.
And block your own face.
Please don't fall. Okay. Yes. So there's these 6 games out. They're reprints. All of these games are 1 to 2 player. I believe they take anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes to play. They're all designed for ages 10 and up, and they are all very different.
There's a lot of, we were talking about this earlier, like logistically they're all very similar, clearly in like box size and presentation, but these are like good, not quite like pocket size, but like travel size games.
Compact games for kids or adults. 1 to 2 players. You can play solo, but really, if you're, got a couple kids in the back of a car, throw them the box of games on the road trip.
I have Honorim on my phone. I really like it.
Yeah.
It's about like finding portals and doors and dreams or something.
They're all very different. Again, I'm not going to cover each one. They're really fun. Go check them all out. They're available this weekend at your favorite local gaming store. And again, they are reprints, which means that they got a first printing, did pretty well enough that Asmodee was like, we should print more of those. So that should tell you something.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that we have this cool tower up, I think that's it.
I'm tapped.
Yeah, so that's everything this
weekend.
We'll bring it all out here. Go check out the Call to Adventure for sure. We got the Adventure Calendar, which I'm trying to remember how to stand this one up here. Just kind of slide it in here.
There we go.
Wow, dragon. And then Splendor. We can't forget.
I feel like Monolith is really leaking into today's. Like, we got tower and building, and this. It's very thematically fitting. Right?
Like that?
Yeah.
There we go.
I'll sit right here. This is fine.
Perfect. Yes. So again, big thanks to our friends at Dragons Lair Comics Fantasy. A lot of really cool stuff out this weekend. Go check out these board games. That's going to do it for us here on the Tabletop Spotlight. I'm Adam.
And I'm Matt.
And we'll catch you next time on the tabletop.
Bye.